everyone. Welcome to another episode of Women Like Me Stories in Business. I'm very excited to have this conversation with this lady. So, let me tell you a little bit about her, and then we're going to dive in to some really interesting and deep emotional stuff, I think, today. So, let me tell you a bit about her. Patricia Higgins is an Irish facilitator and faith explorer dedicated to creating welcoming spaces where people can reflect on spirituality, doubt, and meaning. She supports individuals in engaging with faith in ways that are thoughtful, authentic, and personally grounded. Patricia believes spirituality is not about rigid answers, but about courageous conversations and lived experiences. So, Patricia, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it a lot. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, Julie. Well, first of all, thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I live in the northernmost tip of the Republic of Ireland. I can see Scotland and the UK from where I live.
Wow.
So I'm very blessed, a real liminal space. We moved here 4 years ago, 5 years ago, the we being my husband and three kids. So I have teenage twins, boy girl twins, and the baby of the house is 11,
Oh,
and he's almost taller than me. And we have a dog who's a very important addition, COVID addition. And we've just moved into my mum's house. My mum passed away 2 years ago now from Alzheimer's, and
oh,
we've just moved into her house. So that's been a really positive step. So we're blessed to be here. We have beautiful views, and yeah, we used to live in Dublin, so we live in a very beautiful. We're all still going, oh my God, it's so wonderful to be here.
oh,
So we're feeling very lucky.
oh,
In my
yeah,
day job, I work part time. I do all the things that you mentioned, but
yeah.
I do those on Monday and Friday because that's when I get to put my head down and focus on those. Because Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I work as an integration worker with asylum seekers and refugees in a local
Oh,
social inclusion project.
wow, wow. Well, I used to live in the city, and my husband and I moved out to, we're in Canada, and
Hmm.
my husband and I moved out to a little town called Chilliwack. The views of these mountains are just, so I know what you're talking about when you just feel so blessed
Hmm.
to, our world is a beautiful place, but when we actually get to have a beautiful spot in it, we're very blessed for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely, yes. We,
Yeah.
we we swim in the Atlantic Ocean. My husband and I swim in the Atlantic Ocean most mornings, and we are so privileged to do it.
Wow.
It's an enormous blessing.
It is. Wow. Lovely. Well, I'm very sorry to hear about your mom, but I think that it's lovely that you've been able to keep her home, and yeah, and now you and your kids and your husband can enjoy it. So that's
Yeah,
lovely.
it's a
Yeah.
very special place.
Yeah. Okay, Patricia. Well, let's get started. So, I'm wondering what sparked your passion for creating spaces around faith and spirituality?
I use a term, Julie. I think most people in Ireland, because of the predominance influence of the Catholic Church, and all of the troubled history it's had here. I know it's had troubled histories elsewhere too, but fall into a category called over church, but maybe not over God, or somewhat over church, but not over God. And so in the last number of years, I've felt a real pull as a woman to own the call I feel to work with people around faith, and to do that in a way that is unhindered or unanswerable to the powers that be within the institutional church. Um, and what sparked that was I had really positive experiences of faith as a child. I come from the north of Ireland, where your listeners may know Catholics and Protestants are two big labels, and so culturally being a Catholic is a huge part of the identity. I didn't know anybody who didn't go to mass. Like
Mm.
it just was part of what you did in a small town, that I grew up within. So, and we had a family tragedy when I was, well, not tragedy. My younger, it was tragic, but it wasn't accidental. My brother got cancer when he was 6
Mm.
and died. He was the youngest in the house. He was the apple of my parents' eye. It broke their hearts, and we were so held through that by people of faith, Um, and I saw women in particular do, like, they were very practical. They loved and cared for us with a lot of practicality. I got a dinner every day from a good friend of my mum's, the same woman who drove my mum up and down when she was heavily pregnant with my brother who died.
Oh,
Oh, sorry, and my dad was, sorry, I'm getting confused here, but my dad had been sick when my mum was pregnant with that brother, and the
oh,
care there was phenomenal. And that care came forward again when my brother became sick as a child.
oh,
Um, and this, in terms of spiritually, when we came to bury him, the day it was Mother's, it was the day before Mother's Day actually,
oh,
um, and my dad's birthday. So just so many a difficult day that just became so hard. One of those women and my aunt had got an 18-year-old boy, one of their sons, to go into his grave and line the grave with daffodils. They actually put daffodils into around the clay of the grave, and then a big spray of daffodils on the ground. So for me, that is that's like hope in dark places. That's what faith
wow.
should offer people, is like when you're right at the edge of the rawest
Yeah.
place, the darkest place, that there is light, there is care, there is thought. Um, and so, yeah, I guess what sparked, I grew up with strong women, capable women who could practically express um, a belief in love and care and something beyond.
Wow. That's, sad certainly about your brother, but it sounds like such a beautiful way to I've just never heard of anything like that. I think it's I hate to use the word beautiful and when your brother
No, no,
passed
no.
away, but it's just sounds like such a kind and beautiful. I'm just visualizing what it would look like. Yeah.
it was really. I mean, my mum had prayed that my brother would live until the daffodils came. That was important to her, and so he died in March, and that yeah, that made a big, that meant something.
Yes.
And he made it through the winter, and he had a great ease with, he had a great confidence in heaven. He never questioned that. So
Yeah.
that was very reassuring for me. I took heaven as a given. I took, and so for me then, I guess what sparked the interest was then I had ideas. I had to get to heaven to I had to get to heaven to connect with him
Oh,
um again, and that meant finding out God's plan. So that became that. So the spark, this the positive spark was those women who were modeling such
yeah.
amazing, grounded, earthed connection.
Yes. Yes.
And but what pushed the push factor was, shit, I've got to get to heaven. And
Yeah.
and to do that, I've got to know God's plan. And how the hell do I know God's plan? And I have a sneaking suspicion that he wants me to be a nun, because as a Catholic girl, the best thing you could do was be a nun. And I was a straight A student. So I was used to being the best in a classroom context.
Yes.
So I kind of had to be the best. If it was going to get the prize for being the best for God, well, that meant being a nun, and
Yeah.
that was terrifying. Because I didn't want to be a nun.
Yeah. And so how did your faith shift or deepen? Like how and did you ever find that way? Like that God's direction, his path for you, the path for you?
Well, I was really lucky. I had an aunt, another amazing woman. She was the leader of her congregation um, when she was in her 60s. And my dad, as a businessman, was fascinated. He said, "That's amazing. Like, in an organization, they had kind of reabsorbed their former CEO." Like, he went, "That's daft. Like, how can you take over the reins when the previous CEO is sitting on your shoulders?" So when she
Yeah.
retired from being the provincial in her order, um, she became a spiritual director in a particular type of spirituality called Ignatian spirituality. And I knew of that when I was coming. I thought her work was amazing. So she led people on silent retreats. She trained people to work
Ah,
as accompaniers for others. And I've recently finished my own qualifications in that. Um, so that spirituality is kind of, instead of thinking that God gives you shoulds and there's shoulds that you must do, it's
yes.
God wants what you most desire for yourself. And it gives you kind of tools to tap into that. And so that kind of revolutionized, transformed my faith. So God became this, went from being this obnoxious judge with
Yes.
difficult to decipher requirements to being someone who dances with me and wants to co-create with me and
Mm.
wants what I most deeply want for myself.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. That's what it should be like. Absolutely, I agree. So tell us a little bit about what you do, because when I went to your website, there's a lot of nature, a lot of what do you tell us? What is it that you're doing?
I guess in business terms, I guess I'm a bit of a, I used to work for a social entrepreneur. I think I'm a bit of a spiritual entrepreneur. Uh,
Ah,
I create spaces with people um, to explore and discover faith. And that could be like from a business point of view to make money at that, because I wanted to invest more time in it. I used to work in IT. So when I moved into this field more full time, it was to create offer ceremonies, wedding ceremonies, memorial ceremonies, funeral
oh,
ceremonies. So I guess in that I'm very focused on working with the couple to co-create and to make those spaces as participative as possible. So
ah,
that's one aspect.
yes.
Um, Another aspect is I've been doing it for years with my husband, who is a former Jesuit priest. I have been we have been with friends. We have been creating spaces. Um, yeah, taking responsibility for ourselves spiritually to create community and spaces where we can share faith. And we do that regularly with a community who meet online once a week and share the leadership of that. And we then open that out to others. Um, 2 or 3 times a year, we host events that with another wider group of people, and when we open that out to have faith spaces outside that are deliberately explorative and creative and participative.
Wow. Wow. Have you ever doubted what you do? Do you ever doubt
Hmm.
your spirituality or
I guess the doubts came when I fell for my husband. I mean that was a really exciting but really challenging time. Um, I was working with the Jesuits at the time, and yeah, I'd known him for some time, and then I realized that I had strong feelings for him, and that was kind of overwhelming. I didn't know what to do with that, so I had lots of doubts. I didn't speak to him about that for a year, over a year,
Mm,
and then he, after speaking to him for some months later, he realized he had feelings for me. Um, and then he had a decision to make, and that took a long time. And that was a very difficult time because he had a clear vocation in terms of within the church. He had a clear role, and he was within a structure, and that was very affirmed. And so if he were to leave that, it wasn't clear what he would, we would, he would find a way to do that again. So there were a
mm,
lot of questions for me at that stage. Could we make it as a couple? Would we make it as a couple? But more, well, what if he doesn't choose this? And I can understand why he would choose to stay in that channel that allowed him to engage with people as a priest. Where did that leave me? Because I looked at the nun thing and I really didn't
mm,
think the nun thing was for me. I did feel called to some kind of, I wanted a relationship,
yeah.
but I wanted faith to be a part of that. So I guess once we had, once he had left, I think the process of him is just that seemed to be an affirmation of, I felt affirmed in what I had been felt drawn to. And I also knew that I was really lucky to have worked with the Jesuits and created really powerful spaces within the church, like a little air pocket of positivity and alternative power sharing and creativity. Lots of fantastic retreats with young people. So I knew the methodologies worked. I guess the challenge was, could they work outside? And I guess in terms of did I have doubts? The fact that the institutional church in Ireland has gone through scandal after scandal after scandal. I guess my questions and my distancing myself from it, or my no longer feeling at ease in it,
Hmm.
was coming at the same time when it was the same was happening for lots of other people, Julie. Like,
Yeah.
what is this church that is messaging, that has messaged one thing and is delivering another? And I guess my
Yes.
female sensitivities increased as well. For
Yes.
man is God, God is man. So
Yes.
there has to be another way of doing this.
Yeah. It
Um,
must have been a very anxiety driven time for you and your husband when he was trying to decide what's the path, what's the right thing for him to do.
Yeah, it was, but I felt very, I guess, I mean, one definition of spirituality, Julie, is, your connection with as your source or your higher being,
Yeah.
or as as a believer, I guess I would say with God. I guess it it gave me great, I owned my connection with God in a way that I had never, and the tools that I'd learned through Ignatian spirituality, I owned them and came to know them. And so I had a sense of God that I could really trust.
Yeah.
Um, and I guess that emerged. So, as so often in life, it was a really tough time, but it bore great fruit. Even if Seamus had stayed, I would have had a much deeper connection with God than I'd had before. So,
Yeah.
much deeper sense of my own spirituality.
Yeah. It's so true what you just said is that, anytime we go through struggles, I guess I shouldn't say 100% of the time, but most of the time, there's knowledge and wisdom and confidence and learning and growth that we understand. Yeah, and that we
Yeah,
come to.
there's a beautiful phrase, post-traumatic growth. I heard it on a podcast. I can't remember exactly which one, but I've seen that in my work that and I know it to be true in my own life that there is potential after difficult or even within difficult for there to be real growth and blessings.
Yes, yes. And I guess it's up to us at that point to take those lessons and growth that we have, and then to be able to step up and go, okay, I'm not going to let this keep me down. I'm going to take what I've learned and move forward. And I see that a lot. I see that a lot with the women that I'm connected with, which is lovely, which is so nice to see. So, how do you make space for people who are carrying religious wounds?
Um,
What is a religious wound? How would you define that?
I was on a course during the week, a safeguarding course for people who spiritually accompany, and they said that there are four grounds currently of abuse in safeguarding terms, and that there are papers being worked on in various church circles that spiritual abuse will be added to that. And I think there were very damaging images of God given.
Mm,
I think that's I mean, clearly, let me state first, Julie, obviously there have been people who've been directly abused by religious, and
yes,
that is appalling. I mean, it's appalling on a human to human. It's also appalling because you mess with someone's connection with God when you do that,
mm,
because certain religious figures are set themselves up as a conduit or a connecting point to God. So to contaminate that is really there's
mm,
what they do to the person and there's what they do to their sense of God. So I think that's a religious wound. I would own, Julie. I mean, that's I haven't had direct experience with someone who's had that level of abuse. I would recognize that requires careful handling, and I'd
yes,
certainly want them to have the appropriate um, psychotherapeutic support and care around that. If they then had questions, I can imagine that would generate a spiritual rage. If they needed or wanted, I dare say there are more experienced spiritual accompaniers than me who could
mm,
handle that.
mm-hmm,
But religious wounds, many of us have had misplaced images of God, and I think that they are, um, if we accept those and don't push at them and push past them, I think they can be very limiting, and I
yes,
think they can be very wounding.
yes, yes. So, how do you think spirituality helps us?
I'm just going to close this door because my dog has just popped into the room.
Okay. No problem.
Sorry.
My cat walked across our screen earlier, so
I wondered what that was.
it was a cattail.
Um, I sorry, can you
That's
repeat
okay.
the question?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, like, how, from your point of view, how, if somebody is out there listening to us and they're feeling however they're feeling, how can spirituality help them in their life? What would it bring? What might they be missing?
I, for me, spirituality has been the means to connect to myself,
Hmm.
to connect to others, and to connect to, well, for me, it's God. For others that I've worked with, I know it's to connect more deeply with what they understand, whether it's spirit, universe, um,
Hmm.
ancestors, loved ones. Um, I think spirituality, and maybe it helps to like what does it mean to bring spirituality? What could spirituality bring? How would it do the bringing? For
Ah,
me to concretize that, I think there are many secular practices that become spiritual depending on your intention and your openness. So for me, those would include like body awareness, um, um, intention setting, examining. A big thing for me is examining my or reflecting back on my emotions through the day with an understanding that they are how God connects to us and speaks directly to us. Um, and then I guess for me, another brilliant liberating thing has been imaginary contemplations. So being able to put myself into various situations, again, because of my background, a lot of those tend to be gospel stories, and then to punch and punch hard at things that don't sit right. And so I have found that actually being able to lean into the energy of the frustration and irritation that I can sometimes feel at stories that don't fit or don't work, that 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 punching hard internally
yes.
can actually release and allow an openness to seeing beyond. Does that make sense?
Eh,
Maybe if I give a concrete example.
yes, yes, please.
Yeah. So for example, take there's um I would imagine that many of your listeners would be conscious or aware of some of the resurrection, many of the resurrection stories, even if they're not Christian or practicing. So there's a
Yes,
story of Jesus as a newly risen that he meets Mary Magdalene,
yes,
and as part of their interaction in the garden, he says, "Do not touch me." And I remember thinking, that is so off. This woman stood by the foot of your cross. It's less than 24 hours since she saw you, like it's less than 36 hours since she watched you being crucified, and
yes.
now you're going, like stay
Yeah,
away from me. Don't.
yes,
And she's got a lot to get her head around, not least the fact that you're not where you should be, like in
yes.
that tomb. Don't be so. Don't dismiss her. She needs to go on a journey, and you need
Mm,
to hear her as her friend. You can't just go snap to it, Mary. Get with the program.
yeah.
Um, but I was able to rant at Jesus as Mary and go, "Don't you tell me." And then, having done that, I heard something else, which was an alternative version of that, which was I needed to know that I was alive. I didn't know what was going on here. I needed to know that this was real, and the
Mhm.
person who knows me best is you. And I know when you hold me that I'm actually alive. Because if you could put your arms through me, I'm a ghost. But if you can touch me and hold me and I can see you and feel you, I'm real.
Ah,
But I need you not to hold me now, although though I want that, I need you
hmm.
to
Yeah,
be strong for me because I need you to carry this message to others. So
yes,
it's not don't cling to me. It's be strong for me for now. Um,
right.
and that for me, that makes that I can imagine that encounter. I
Yes.
can't imagine the other. And,
I
and
ne
so
I never really thought of it in that way, but yeah, now that makes more sense to me.
And so you asked your question because I don't want to wander off. You
Yeah.
asked how does spirituality help? I think some of the religious wounds are stuff that just does not sit, particularly as women.
Hmm.
Like all of those stories for women who are infertile, the miraculous conception stories are a crucifixion. That God would kind of allow women to miraculously conceive while so I think it's really helpful to push at those and
Yes.
to go hard because I guess the God I believe in can take that and can reveal something more beyond.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Thank you. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. So, how can women begin creating their own spiritual rhythm at home or in their own lives?
Um, I I'm smiling because I'm blessed to be part of a number of different friend groups, and one of them is we call ourselves the Wise Wonderful Women. One of them very sadly passed very suddenly a couple of months
Oh,
ago. Um, so I guess that's kind of renewed our commitment to stay connected. Um, and what we found really helpful was just carving out the time to be with each other and then to listen to each other. So to take time within the kind of cooking and laughing and walking and that we made time to sit with each other and go, well, how are you really? Like what's really going
yeah.
on? And I mean, I know that those circles of women, um, there's a wonderful woman here, Lucy Pierce. She runs a publishing house called Womancraft, and she's just published an anthology of Gathering, a celebration of women's circles. So I have a piece in it, which is why I know all those things despite my menopausal muddle. I actually know all those tidbits. Um, so I know from being a part of that process that it's a wider practice. For me, we kind of fell into that, but we shared a significant experience in our 20s and we resolved to kind of stay connected. And that has been
Mhm.
really significant. And it's allowed, we now meet online with our husbands once a week. So that has flowed, that's become a really powerful kind of anchor in my life. But I realize that I'm lucky to have that. For someone who's individual,
Mm,
um, the giving it time and finding something. There's a plethora of apps out there. Finding shop around and I'd encourage praying mightn't sound right for people, but ask, intend before you go
yes.
for
Yes.
to be blessed with the grace of good choice
Yes.
and be courageous to move away from anything that's giving you an ick factor,
Mm,
that seems to not sit
yeah.
right.
Yeah. And that sometimes can be really hard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'd also say there are like okay, I'm trained in a particular accompanying tradition, but there are spiritual companions out there,
Yes.
spiritual directors. So uh, invest in one of those. Lots of people invest in personal trainers. Get yourself a spiritual guide, even for it's a short term thing, but
Ah.
invest in that part of your life and get someone to put you on a track you feel comfortable with.
That is, that's amazing advice. Thank you for
Mm.
sharing that. Yeah. I've never really thought of that, but really we have all these things. We have business and family and a lot of times we forget the inner us. We forget our own inner health and spirituality and whatever else that might be. And so we end up hollow inside, but yet we've got all these other things going on around us.
Well, women often are, women multitask all over the shop and manage relationships. They manage
Yes.
relationships with their
Yes.
spouses, their partners, their kids,
Yeah.
so many men lean into the social connection of a woman, but who's resourcing or when do you take time to resource your connection with your source?
Yes.
So resource that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
And I know that's easy to say that's the luxury of the first world option, but I'm just saying many of your listeners will be in a first world situation. I'm just saying it may be worth considering if it's an option. And there's a lot of that is available online.
Yes, yes. That's one of the great things about technology, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
Is that you can find almost anybody and everybody out there if you're looking for what you're
Yes.
looking
Okay.
for sure.
Mm.
Yeah. And I agree. I think that so often we as women we lose ourselves.
Mm.
And we forget that we matter or we get our I don't know how to explain it we get our self esteem from what we do for others but just quite often we forget ourselves and then what happens is one day we wake up and go kids are gone, maybe the husband's gone, heaven forbid, you know, and what did it all mean, or where am I going from there? And I I think we need to listen to ourselves. I had we don't have a lot of time for me to go into the whole story, but I was under a lot of pressure in my career. I was getting really burnt out, and I was searching, what else can I do? 34 years I've been doing this. What else can I do? Is all I know, like, how am I going to make money? All of those kinds of things. And I had a dream, and the dream was definitely a spiritual dream. And I woke up, and I could have just went, oh yeah, that was an interesting dream, and carried on. But I woke up and I thought, wow, can my life really be like that? And I started searching, and the next thing you know, 2 years I've retired. I've helped 180 women write their stories. Um, you know, 350 true life stories. Our 32nd book is coming out, and that's because I knew I needed something, and the answer will come if you ask. Like, what else is there? What else am I supposed to be doing here? Because I can't keep doing this much longer. It's going to put me in the grave. And so what else, what else is there? And I can't imagine now doing anything else. But I also couldn't even believe that I'm doing this. I can't even believe that we're talking, because that was just not part of my life. So it's for me, I get so excited about it, because I think that there's so many of us, especially women, that are, we don't know. Is there anything we can do? Oh, what good am I? What am I? Oh, this is all I know. But there is. But you just have to listen to that inner voice, and then you have to take action. Sorry, I don't know why I went off on my tangent there.
No, no, but that's really powerful. That's you followed I mean, you trusted that dream, and you
Yes,
trusted that what it presented was possible. And now
yes,
you're helping, um and you're helping me, you're helping other women to tell their stories and to share their wisdom.
yes,
Um
yeah.
in a world that can tell you, well, your job is to care, and then keep caring.
Keep caring. Exactly. Well, it's working. So let me ask, I have two different questions. Has faith cost you anything? And what has your faith given you?
Okay, I think faith has cost as a woman, faith has cost me the ability to make it in a channel that's established. So this desire to be an innovator and to create spaces, um, because my relationship didn't fit within my religious, within the church I grew up in,
Yeah.
then I've had to innovate outside it. So it's cost, and I guess being true to that sense, it's cost me, and I have found it hard. It's cost me. If I'd been okay to just keep going in IT consultancy, management consultancy, which is where I started life, my kids often slag me and go, "Mommy, you could be making loads of money, and you could be,
Yeah.
I could have had a lot of, um, I could have had a lot more recognition for in a career sense." Um,
Hmm.
so there's there isn't any ladder to climb. I never had a career in faith. I only ever had a job, and that job option kind of dried up whenever I married Seamus. It became complicated. So,
Yeah.
um, but I don't regret any of that, but I do notice that as someone who was a high achiever at school, I have found it hard not to have high achieving options in the area that I really want to invest in. Um,
Hmm.
so that's what it's cost me, but
Hmm.
that's a good price to pay for being authentic, and
Hmm.
and also I've been very supported, um I have been privileged to be able to do that. Um
Hmm.
and sorry, the second part of that question
Well, it's
was,
just, and what has your faith given you?
it has given me it's given me the most amazing connection to people, to myself. I know myself. I love the person I can be when I'm that it's allowed me to be. I've um Yeah, I love what I do and I love what I can invite people to do. I it has given me the connection with Seamus, my husband, and the courage to reach for that or to believe, to be open to allowing that to be a choice.
Yeah.
Um, and it's given us a wonderful life together. We've three amazing kids.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's given me the courage to take the leap from Dublin to leave. I went back to work in IT when the kids were young in a really innovative social enterprise for IT for charity, but I
Mhm.
don't want to work in IT. So it's given me the courage to reach for that again.
Yeah.
And it's given me a confidence in my own ability,
Yeah.
which the institutionalized religion isn't ready to accept that any but that well, my institutionalized religion
Yeah.
tradition is not ready to accept women have.
Yeah.
So it's given me a confidence to own that and name that and to act on it
Yeah.
and not look for permission or apologize for it, but just
Yeah.
to go and do it.
Yeah. My favorite thing you said was that you actually know yourself.
Mm.
And I think there's so many of us walking around that don't know ourselves or are even afraid to get to know ourselves for whatever reason. But I that was my favorite thing you said there. I love that. Well, Patricia, this has been a great conversation. I've just really loved it a lot, and it's got me thinking. And that's one of the fun things about what I do is I get to talk to people like you that gets to get my brain going as well. So I want to let everyone know that if you would like to reach out to Patricia, we are going to have information in the show notes where you will be able to do that. So, she might live in the neighborhood you're in, or she may be all the way or halfway across the world. But with this lovely thing that we have, which is called the internet, you can actually reach out to her. So don't be shy. And for whatever it is that you need, or any questions that you might have, just don't hesitate to reach out to her. So, Patricia, in closing, if you could whisper one sentence to a woman searching for meaning, what would it be?
Focus on what gives you life and move towards that.
Oh, I got shivers. Yeah.
And trust no further than trust in the next most obvious step.
Yes. Yeah. Beautiful. Wow, thank you so much. This has been just a fabulous conversation, and I appreciate you so much having the willingness to come on and share a bit of your life and your beliefs with everyone. So, yeah, so thank you so much. I appreciate it. And so remember, everyone, all of Patricia's information will be in the show notes. So do not hesitate to reach out to her. And we will see you next time on another episode of Women Like Me in Stories in Business. Bye.